In the 6th century, Procopius was a scholar and historian in the Eastern Roman Empire, also known as the Byzantine Empire. Procopius served as an advisor to the general Belisarius, accompanying him in numerous Byzantine wars and writing down events, making him the principal historian of the 6th century. His most important work, History of the Wars, is a large collection of books that document the Romans' campaigns against the Persians, the Vandals, the Ostrogoths. There was a lot of war during this time. But one curious thing Procopius also mentions is Porphyrios, a sea beast that supposedly terrorized the area around Constantinople during his prefecture. According to Procopius, Porphyrios was a large monster that harassed ships on and off for 50 years, driving many boats to ruin and their passengers to a watery grave. The terror the beast inspired seems to have been fairly well established in the empire. It was already known by the name Porphyrios before Procopius wrote about it. In fact, Procopius says even the Emperor Justinian I was concerned about Porphyrios and wished to capture the creature, but was unable to do so. The beast's existence is taken as almost certain historical fact, and it's mentioned in the history of the decline and fall of the Roman Empire, as well as Moby Dick. What's not so certain is what sort of creature Porphyrios was, and Procopius's description, or lack thereof, leaves a lot to the imagination. Porphyrios is described as a ketos, which historians have struggled to translate. The word definitely describes some sort of large sea creature, and some think it might mean whale. Ketos was the ancient Greek word for the legendary Leviathan, so does it mean whale or sea monster? The study of marine biology in the 6th century was somewhat lacking in comparison to today. By and large, you'd only get a good look at a sea creature if it left the sea. So maybe a whale was a sea monster to the Byzantines, like they just didn't really have a robust classification method for these things. The name Porphyrios is thought by some to be a reference to the colour purple, so perhaps it was a whale with a dark wine colour, or maybe the name just evoked imperial purple, like the creature was royalty, king of the sea, that kind of thing. The best description of Porphyrios comes from the one time people got to see him in all his glory, when the beast's 50 years of carnage finally came to an end. Procopius writes that one day Porphyrios was chasing a large number of dolphins, which led it close to land, where the creature beached itself in deep mud it could not free itself from, despite strenuous attempts. The people who lived nearby gathered around, seemingly somehow recognizing that this was Porphyrios. The creature is described as measuring 30 cubits long and 10 cubits wide. For those of you who don't use cubits in your daily life, that's about 45 feet long and 15 feet wide. Anyways, the people then hacked Porphyrios to death and divided its flesh amongst themselves, some taking it home to cure and some devouring it on the spot. Procopius mentions that some people said this beached creature was not Porphyrios at all, but a different beast, but he declines to comment on this, having no way of knowing himself. If we assume this beast was Porphyrios, and can take the measurements as somewhat accurate, there are some animals that could potentially match the description. A sperm whale would roughly match those measurements, and they can live up to 70 years. Maybe it could have been a dark winish colour, but sperm whales aren't known to be particularly aggressive towards boats. They're fairly shy, and they generally go after squid, not dolphins. Sightings of them in Porphyrios' stomping grounds are fairly rare too. Another possibility is that Porphyrios was an orca. They hunt dolphins. They're also known to ram boats and bite rudders off, so behaviourally, orca is probably the best fit. But 45 feet would be one big bastard of an orca, as in Porphyrios would be the biggest orca ever recorded. They're also very rare in that area, and let's not forget their distinctive patterning that surely would have gotten a mention, right? Well, Pliny the Elder actually wrote about creatures called orcas about 500 years previous, which is where we get the name today. although the only real hint he was talking about orcas as we know them today is that he wrote about them fighting other whales. As for their appearance, he just says they're big with teeth and otherwise indescribable. I don't know about that, man. They're pretty distinct. Those are our current best guesses as to what Porphyrios was, and neither of them is hugely compelling. There must be some level of exaggeration and myth to this story, and the truth is in fact much more pedestrian. But it is odd that there was a 50-year period where a creature was uniquely identified as being such a terror to ships that the Roman Emperor got involved. If I could travel back in time, I'd spend a considerable amount of time observing events from the Roman Empire, as I guess a lot of people would, but I'd definitely earmark some time for witnessing the beaching of Porphyrios, to see for myself what it was and watch the people react to this massive sea beast, probably a once-in-a-lifetime sight for them, and their first instinct being to eat it. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, I have many more that are similar, but about different things. Well, it would be weird if I had many more about this one topic, wouldn't it? You can subscribe to see more in the future, and join the channel membership to provide me with monies. Until next time, stay safe. In the 6th century, Procopius was a scholar and historian in the Eastern Roman Empire, also known as the Byzantine Empire. Oh Lord. In the 6th... But one curious thing Procopius also mentions is Porphyrios. Porphyrios. It's Porphyrios. Porphyrios. But one curious thing Procopius also mentions is Porphyrios. For fuck's sake, Porphyrios. But one curious thing Procopius also mentions is Porphyrios. God, I know how to say it. I've been saying it all week. Why the fuck am I fucking it up now?